Today I will be presenting on the title Rooted and Rising. That is a big caption, but I'll be narrowing down more around mastering stress and building resilience. And our focus in point is the global majority experience. You would have noticed that for some time now, there's a shift away from BAME, that is Black, Asian, and minority ethnic, being replaced by the global majority. And this new nomenclature, I would say, is just a reflection of our demographics, meaning that people of African descent, Asian, indigenous, and Latin population, it is said that we currently are about 80% of the world's population. That said, away from where we are from, away from our home countries, we have been minoritized and in a way also marginalized. So there are things that are associated with that label, some would say, or a full experience of that label. So I'll be talking more around mastering stress and building resilience, but I will attach it to us as a people, talking about our roots and also about our aspiration. I'm using the tree to depict rooted and rising. A word of the scripture says that you would take root downwards and then bear fruit upwards. Whatever we see upwards by the virtue of fruits or expectations fulfilled, accomplishment, resilience, wisdom, success, cannot just happen without the component part, which is the root. And we would say that the root is a metaphor that captures many things. The root seems to embrace our heritage, our culture, our value and wisdom that is passed down many generations. To be rooted is to stand firm in knowledge of who we are and where we come from. And we also can draw strength from that root. On the other hand, I would say that rising speaks to aspirations that are beyond the horizons, aspirations that break limits or limitations that are inherent in a minoritized context that we find ourselves. Rising speaks to breaking the lead or challenging status quo, or like some would even say it is to reach for the stars. So rising in the context of this presentation and in relation to where we live, for some of us in the UK and in other places, it would then be or mean our ability to innovate or to create or bring meaningful contributions and transformation to our community while we will not lose sight of the root. There's something else I like to show here, which is the highs. The highs for people who are from areas, cold regions where you have the opportunity of sites like this. Whatever is seen floating above the water, which is the iceberg, is the part above the water technically is called bumok. But there is another part. No, the part above the water is called umok, but there's another part that is below the water, which it is said to be like 2 or 3 times whatever is seen. That is the bumok. The beautiful sight of the hummock is never possible without its root. So I will call the root, which is the invisible part, as the thing that sustains it. So for every success that we see or aspire for, there is a stress that follows it. Then we need to master stress so that we don't consider stress as totally stressful. Stress can also be useful. Some would say there is no blessing without the burden. So there is also no success without stress. Now, let me talk about stress because we are looking at the subtitle, which is Mastering Stress and Building Resilience. Like I have said, that stress is an integral part of our everyday life. And there is no way we would be rooted, even as a people of culture, as a people of root, without having or acknowledging that there are elements of stress that we must take. And there are also stress that are very stressful or negative that we need to learn how to manage. In our context, for those of us in the West, being minoritized or arguably marginalized also comes with a stress that is unique to it, which some people will call the minority stress. So let's first understand what stress is. Certain things really do not need dictionary to be understood. Almost every one of us here present tonight would have undergone stress in one way or the other, and you can best describe what stress means to you. But let's look at what books say stress is. You may find your own definition or experience from all of these. It says is the feeling of emotional and physical tension, or is a sense of being overwhelmed or under threat. It is also an heightened sense of pressure. It also can be described as developing or exhibiting negative emotions like fear, worry, anxiety that happens as a result of an overwhelming situation or event. And stress also can be described as an adaptive response to an external situation that results in three things. First, physical, psychological, and behavioral definition. By no means is all this the full picture of what stress is, but in one way or the other, we may have experienced stress or even currently going through one. But I want to say that stress is universal, but it seems to be higher in minoritized group. I'm not moving away from how we are now seeing ourselves. We are the global majority by reason of population, but in certain contexts, we become minoritized. And for being minoritized comes with its consequences. We'll be talking more about that today. Still talking about stress. I have said that stress can be positive or negative. The positive stress is described as eustress, and it has its benefit, which includes being motivated, helping to achieve certain goals, or helping us to become or give us that feeling of excitement and so on. For example, in preparing for this presentation, I went through stress. It was stressful preparing to talk about stress. But for me, I would say it's eustress. I began to discover and even learn more things about this topic because I've been asked to do this presentation today. But when it goes on the other side, when it becomes negative, we call it distress. That is when it then manifests in anxiety, there is decreased performance associated with it, and there also can be a lot of mental and physical problems that are associated with distress, meaning that stress is not totally bad. We need a part of it for our lives to be better. I have behind me or by my side here a guitar. So when I play the guitar and I need the guitar to be well tuned, if you can see it, I need to put some level of stress on the guitar to get it tuned. Similarly, if we will give the resounding tune, if we will sound well in the context where we find ourselves, it will not be without some level of stress. And the stress that we will go through as a minoritized group may be more than the stress the majority in our context will go through. But I'm saying we, being minoritized, should be open to certain stress, especially the one that is within the limit of eustress. But we also need to know when it's becoming distress and learn what to do, else the consequences may be dire. So people that work in this area have what is the stress continuum, saying that stress can move from positive to negative. On the positive side, it is healthy tension, it gets you motivated and gets you focused. But there's a thin line between that part when it's getting you focused to the part where it's beginning to get you fatigue and also lead to anxiety and so on. Now, stress, when it is on the negative, has symptoms, and the symptoms vary from person to person. All of these that is showing from headache to anxiety to anger may not be present in one person. If all of these are present in one person, then urgent medical attention is needed. But the truth is, stress comes with physical, psychosocial, and emotional symptoms. And it translates to or affect every other aspect of our lives. The physical symptoms include headache, muscle tension, fatigue, sleep disturbance, digestive issues, and rapid heartbeat or even palpitation. But when it shifts to emotions, then we're talking about anxiety, irritability, depression, mood swings, and so on. And there are also behavioral symptoms that are associated with it. Sometimes it affects eating habits. For some people, there'll be loss of appetite. For some other persons, it will lead to overeating. Stress also manifests in what we call social withdrawal. Somebody don't just want to see people. When somebody wants to visit, say, tell them I'm not home. Sometimes it's just that we're going through a lot of stress. And then stress can lead to substance abuse. In our community, we can see the number of people who are into substance abuse. The number is staggering. It's as a result at times of minority stress that we are going through. People take to such things to placate what they are going through. Some it is use of tobacco, some is even use of simple thing as coffee. So much coffee. You take the coffee time and time again. When it's becoming like that, I think it's stress. Or maybe I should say this, for some, it's even taking Coke. Like my wife will say, your Coke is becoming too much. Maybe at such times I'm going through a lot of stress. So stress also has cognitive symptoms, which sometimes can cause difficulty in concentration, or some memory problem. It is not as though the person going through stress is having amnesia or memory loss. When you tend to forget things that you shouldn't forget, you've gone upstairs to do something only to come back down and you are asking, why did I even go upstairs? I've forgotten what I've gone there to go do. It's not the age thing telling. It just can mean that stress is being manifested. Now, let's look at a bit of statistics. In the United Kingdom, it says that 23% of UK adults says stress is work-related. And we in the minoritized group, though the global majority, we find ourselves inside of that 23%. And it says the most significant stress or triggers or stressors were things that border on money. For us, we need to make money, not only to survive here, but because we have some people that are tied to our roots that we also need to send money to, we overstress ourselves and just to make this money, and money becomes number one or the chief stressor in our community. And we also get another stressor that is competing with money is lack of sleep. And I think they go hand in hand. You work many shifts. You do all of the shifts. Why? To get money. And for doing the shift, you lose your sleep. So, and all of this alone or in combination are triggers for stress. Health condition, family issues, and so on are significant stressors based on these UK statistics. And I'm saying we are so much inside that 23%. Then 66% of people 18 and 24 years are suffering from severe form of stress. I find these statistics very alarming because it's showing that stress is happening among young people. And maybe for that reason, we are beginning to have them take to substance abuse so that they douse the effect of the physical and psychological symptoms that may be manifesting with them. And stress seems to be higher in working women between ages of 35 to 45 to 44 years. And this 50% of them are more likely to suffer stress than men. While this is the statistics, but there's a caveat here that says men are less likely to discuss their stress. Because we men don't talk about it, we bottle things up. And for that reason, there's higher rate of mortality because one day we just explode. But the explosion that we see on the outside is as a result of being pent up, the implosion that is going on inside. So I will say our women folk are doing better when they open up and they talk about the stress that they are going through. At times in talking about it, it's not as if the person you have told about your stress has really got anything so significant to help you with your stress. But talking about it on its own right is even therapy. But men don't talk about the stress that they go through. So our community are more vulnerable to stress. And this is based on a 2024 statistics. Having talked about stress, let's look at minoritized stress. So minoritized or minority stress refers to the chronic stress expressed by individuals like us who belong to minoritized group. And oftentimes they arise from unique social challenges that we face. Example include marginalization and discrimination, and a lot of prejudice in the workplace, bias, unfair treatment, social and economic disadvantage that we oftentimes face. So this type of stress, even though stress is universal, this type is peculiar to us, and then is making our stress statistic to swell. How then do we manage stress? What do we do? Psychologists and psychiatrists have these 4 A's of stress management, which are avoid, alter, adapt, and accept. To avoid may include identifying and knowing the stressors. And when we know the stressors, we want to plan or do things ahead of time so that the stressors don't come on us and trigger stress, or learning to say no, or to avoid certain responsibilities that we cannot handle. While alter may mean that we change our environment or make adjustments, and by so doing minimize stress triggers around us. It may mean that we learn to manage our time properly, or learn to be able to organize our task and set realistic deadlines, and also avoid the last minute rush things that we often do. It's common with us. But in the context where we are, you will notice that a lot of our white colleagues, they don't have last minute rush. They plan their holiday like 1 year before it comes. But many times it is the week of the holiday or the month before we start to think on these things that we get to do. And they become stressors, either we like it or not. Then to accept means to embrace what we cannot change. Certain things we can't change. In the workplace, there's minority stress. If I give this example with respect to accent, so we talk about accent bias, accent prejudice, accent preference, and one more that I can't remember right now. If for accent you are facing discrimination, I really don't know what you can do about that, except you were born here. This is how I talk. It's because I've been in Nigeria for too long, and it would take being here for too long again before my tongue and accent can change a bit to reflect the environment where I am at the moment. But we know that there is accent bias. For accent bias, you may not get certain positions. You may not be considered for certain things. And such things may get at you and make you feel stressed. And one of the ways of just doing this is being positive about it. You accept what you cannot change, you embrace it, you talk about your feeling when you can just say it freely that, you know what, the leopard cannot change his skin. This is how I am. Then we talk freely about it and laugh about it. Then somehow we reduce the effect of that stressor or the negative consequence of it. And another way of under this accept category is to forgive and let go of anger and resentment towards others and ourselves. If we don't, it builds up and then it becomes real stressor. All right. And the last one is adapt. Now, adapt means to adjust your standard, be flexible with your expectation, focus on the positive side of things. For psychologists and psychiatrists and people that work in mental health space, these are ways of managing stress. Now we have looked at stress. Stress is associated with our root for being minoritized. Then let's look at resilience. Resilience on itself can be part of the root as well as being fruit or a product when or if we are able to master stress, it should lead to we breathing or showing forth or having resilience. What then is resilience? It is the ability to adapt or recover from adversity, which in this case, what we're talking about is stress. And resilience has different characteristics, which includes adaptability, that speaks to the capacity to adjust to a new environment or new circumstance. It comes also with optimism, which speaks to maintaining a positive outlook and having a hope for the future, even in the face of difficulty. Then we have emotional regulation when you are in charge of your emotion. You don't give everyone the piece of your heart every time. Somebody says the reason we lose our peace is because we have given the piece of our heart to everyone. So when we stay in control, we don't allow our circumstance to get the better of us, then we are building resilience. One good example of a resilient structure is the bridge. When they construct the bridge, they allow gaps in the construction. For people that are into construction or physics, the gaps allows for expansion. When the bridge expands, then it will fill the gap. When the bridge constricts or shrinks, then the gap also show. We should be like the bridge. We will carry a lot of things, both lightweight and heavyweight. We should allow space. Resilience says you need to have the capacity to bounce back and recover from difficult situation or challenges. The bridge always recovers because it allows gap, it allows space. Resilience can be described under different domains, and I have 4 domains here, which include the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The physical domain of resilience speaks to we having physical flexibility, endurance, and stress, while emotion also looks at emotional flexibility, having the positive outlook and self-regulation, while mental flexibility speaks to, or mental resilience speaks to mental flexibility, having good attention span, ability to focus, and so on. And there is also the spiritual flexibility. We are a people of root. We cannot be too Western and take off us spirituality. Through spirituality, we learn to build resilience. A lot of things will come at us in life and in the community, in the workplace, in our environment. We get succor, we get a lot of scrutiny by turning to spirituality, turning to God. And I want to emphasize that as a people of root, we also should develop spiritual flexibility and not lose sight of our beliefs and values. Then I'll go through quickly 5 ways to foster resilience. 5 ways to foster resilience. And I'll start with the first one, which is by building strong self-development. Building strong self-development. To build strong self-development is very broad. And under this, we can begin to look at a lot of things, which include building good self-awareness. In self-awareness, we're talking about we knowing ourselves. Somebody says, know thyself, oh man. You need to know yourself. And in knowing yourself, it says you need to understand your personality trait. A little boy was, an African boy that I know, was served eba, an okra soup, and the size was somehow on the big side. And the mom asked, are you able to do justice to this much of eba? He says, I know myself. I know myself. I can do it. Um, just like the little boy will say he knows himself, he can finish the eba. I'm asking, even though that is on the jocular side, do we know ourselves? And we need to understand our personality traits. By saying know yourself and understanding personality traits, I'm not endorsing that we say we are all we have failed on. If I need to deal with anger so much, and anger is having the better of me, I cannot come and say, oh, I know myself, I always get angry. That is a negative knowing yourself. If I fail on a thing, if I fail on certain habits, I wouldn't dub myself or say, that is who I am. That is not who I am. I am my strength and not my weaknesses. So self-awareness is key. But in self-awareness, I also need to know the weaknesses that I need to work on, which is an important aspect of self-awareness. In developing strong self-development, we also need to consider things like positive attitude or being optimistic or cultivating what we say is positive outlook about things, where we tend to see opportunities in things rather than the obstacle. If we consider the obstacle every time, we will not be able to be our better self. We also need to develop what is trendy these days. They talk about emotional intelligence. For the Yoruba speaking people here tonight, emotional intelligence, I've taught it for a number of years, and it's looking to me like what the Yorubas will call omoluabi is our thing. The West is just bringing science to things that are within our root, things that are within our root. We can bring science to our root and understand it, and we can then have the science or the art of emotional intelligence. So by emotional intelligence, we're talking about developing empathy, self-regulation, and social skills that are vital for maintaining and building strong relationship. Still on strong self-development, there are other traits, other characteristics that are important for us to foster resilience. They include adaptability, persistence, social connection, and so on. So that is my first point, building strong self-development. My second, still on this first point, when we build strong self-development or personality, I'll call that the winning edge. It gives us the winning edge. The second one is to develop strong skills or strong skills development. We are in a context where skills are required, and a lot of things change. If for those of us that emigrated from Africa, Caribbean, Asia, and so on, there's a skill set we're used to in our previous context. And some of those skill sets may not find direct application in our new context. Then if we don't embark on continuous skill development, which is what we need, then we may struggle a bit. We may find a lot of things not easy. So that I call the cutting edge. When you have skill is the cutting edge. A word of scripture says, if the axe head is dull and one does not sharpen it, he said, more strength will be required. So skills are important for any accomplishment that we will have in our current context. Skills we should know are in phases and they are dynamic. For example, we know AI is revolutionizing the workplace, how things are done. We cannot afford to be analog in a digital world. We cannot afford to fight innovation or fight technology or say, I'm not going to use this because I am only comfortable with this. Whatever we are comfortable with, it's only for a time. We live in a fast-paced and fast-changing world. Then we need strong skills development. My third point, or the third way to build resilience, will be through strong work culture development. Somebody says that hard work is better than hard labor. He says, if you fail to do hard work, you have signed up for hard labor. A man that skips hard work has signed up for hard labor. Hard work is good. Hard work pays. Somebody, my mom would say, work doesn't kill. It is laziness that does. While I am an advocate of hard work, I also want to be the advocate of working smart, because many times we may do all the hard work and then we don't see the effect if we fail to do or to work smart. To work smart may mean to make sure we fulfill all the checklist. If there are 10 things on the checklist and I've done so much of hard work on 3, it's a fail. But to work smart will mean I need to have the tick that will give me at least an A grade. Some of us are hard working on certain aspects, but it might be good depending on the context where we find ourselves and where we work. We might need to work smart, may be better than working hard, but hard work is very good. My fourth point, before then, I call work as a breakthrough edge. Now, my fourth point is strong support development. Strong support development. By that, I am talking about relationship. We are a people with relationship in our heritage. We are very social people. We like our connections. We cannot afford to lose that. Because if we do, there's a lot of strength that we draw from our root. For example, during this holiday, we were privileged to have some of our friends come visit. The joy of seeing them was so much. The joy of having them around, and we talk and we forgot that time has so gone. It's more than going out to work to earn some pounds. We are a people of culture. We are a people of value. We treasure relationship. And through relationship, we sharpen ourselves. It is iron sharpened iron. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Um, as a people of culture, as a people of root in this contest, we cannot afford to start isolating or living solo lives. Solo life really doesn't pay so much. It comes with its own consequences. I'm not saying when we live in our community, it will be totally free of stress. No, I'm not saying that, but it will be better, I think so, than living in silos. And the final point for me is spiritual development. If we will be resilient people, it will not be without the God factor. Is the one we can all fall back to when all else fail. We need the inner peace that comes with spirituality. We need that inner peace that comes when we meditate and pray. We need that sense of purpose that comes when we relate to and with God. We need that trust. We need that faith in knowing that there is a being, like some would say, but I don't want to say it that way. There is a God that rules and controls the affairs of men. So spiritual development, I will call it the divine edge. So we need a divine edge. When the workplace goes so tough on you, come back home and fall back to your divine edge. So we have talked about different type of edges that we have: the relationship, the breakthrough edge, the winning edge, and so on. Through all of these, we develop or foster resilience. I'll stop at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mabada. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mbada, for the wonderful and brilliant presentation,
Thank
well
you, sir.
researched and so comprehensive. So one of the things that you have said is that being adapting to the environment, to the situation, and you did mention that it took some years for you, for your accent, has been part of it for some time, and also for it to change, it may also take some time. I'm just using that one as an example. But there are many instances or many examples of things like that you've seen that many of our people coming to this place, in the process of adapting, they get themselves engrossed completely into the system, and some don't even have an identity of their own again. And you'll be wondering. And one thing that I always tell myself is that even if you spend 100 years here, you are still yourself. I mean, we can see example in the case of Prisuna. He was born here, but the time came that they were still telling him that he is not an original person. So my question now is that how can one adapt well without losing his identity? Because we still be who we are, so that at least without our own unique identity, will still be part of us, and it will even be a value, will even be something that we can even use wherever we get to. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farumbi. We are the global majority, but we are minoritized, and that comes with its consequences. We have minority stress, and it's associated with stigma, bias, and so on. We face it. I face that in the workplace. It's everywhere. You also have your story to tell. But what we are saying is that you should know yourself. Come up with your best self. If I present my best self, someone else will see my best self, appreciate my best self, and want to learn of me. But when I'm not confident in my skin, then I'll be running helter-skelter, and in that process, I will lose myself. And then I will not even be the person I am looking forward to become like. Someone said that you should be a good, that a bad original is better than a good photocopy. But I believe in a good original. The good original is you being your better self. If in the workplace I present as my better self, it's just a matter of time. People will appreciate my better self. But if I am not good with myself, then there's a need for me to change to become like what is accepted. So if there's any working on myself, it is for me to be my better self. When I first came, I noticed the way my colleagues speak, and then I was quick also to notice that even though white, they don't all speak alike. Then I ask myself, whose accent should I learn? Who should I speak like of all of these people? But I was quick to tell myself that no, I don't think I need to speak like all of these people. I just need to be my better self. And that is my goal. That is what I'm working on. But with time, there's a rubbing off of the environment where we live. Either you like it or not, it just comes natural, where I don't think I am the way I was some years ago when I left Nigeria with respect to accent. If we are taking that for example, if I go back, people will say, oh, you don't used to talk like this, but it's just coming natural. It will happen with time. But let me go back to my main point. It is that we should just be our better self, unapologetic and not feeling sorry. We should be comfortable in our skin. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sola is asking, when one feels stressful, what can one do to de-stress?
There are two types of stress. Again, I didn't talk about that in the presentation. We have acute stress, which is a short-term stress that arises from maybe a specific event or situation. It can be intense, but it will typically resolve. We have the other type, which is chronic stress. This is long term, it persists over a period of time. Psychologists really do not or have not been able to say if your stress persists for 3 months or 3 weeks, that gives it chronic. But it is chronic when that stress has transitioned from being short term to long term. When that is the case, then we need to apply the 4 A's of managing stress, which in my presentation I talked about: avoid, alter, accept, and adapt. You need to know the stressors. When you know what is causing you stress, plan to avoid such things. Distance yourself from such stressors, especially if it's causing you chronic stress. Then the next level is to alter things. If for example, I can't avoid work. If work is the stressor, I must work. Then I may be thinking about, what do I alter? What do I change? Will it involve managing my time? Or maybe like the women folk, according to the UK statistics, women talk more about their stress than men. Maybe I need a friend that I can tell how I feel. And in the process, I will unbottle myself, and then it may involve accepting the situation if you can't change it, or adapt. You adjust your standard if making more pounds is causing you a lot of stress and you are not even still making enough. Why not just be content with your paycheck and don't kill yourself? If for doing all the shifts is still not adding up, please adapt. Yeah.
You, Dr. Mbada, for the brilliant presentation this evening.
Thank you.
My question is a simple one. I just want to know, because when we talk about the issue of stress in itself, I believe all of this, it usually exists in the mind. And the mind being an abstract entity, we tend sometimes not to be able to objectively measure what goes on in the mind. So you mentioned in the course of this presentation about eustress and distress. And you also mentioned the fact that there is a thin line between the two. So what is the best objective measure to really assess, to understand when there is a crossover between when eustress crosses to become distress? So that's on the one hand. And the second question will be that how much of emotional regulation or emotional intelligence can we actually apply that will not lead to implosion?
All right. Thank you, Olawale. For your first question, how do I know when stress is moving from eustress to distress? We know by the symptoms, and psychologists have classified symptoms under domains. We have the physical symptoms. When the headache is frequent and is severe and is not going, there's muscle tension, especially in the neck, shoulder, and back, and there's just exhaustion and tiredness. Your sleep is not right, and there's stomach upset, and there's palpitation. All of that sum under physical symptoms of stress. So there's a physical symptom to it. The emotional bit is, we should do everything possible not to cross there, because when it goes there, it is difficult to manage. You may need more experts to come in and help manage symptoms like anxiety, irritability, depression, and mood swings. And we also have behavioral symptoms. So it really is by symptoms that we will know. You also asked about building resilience, is it? And you are talking about emotional intelligence. I wish that maybe someday we'll talk about emotional intelligence as a topic on its own right, because it's a huge one. We cannot really do justice to it by this presentation. Emotional intelligence can help resilience with us because it has to do with you knowing yourself and also knowing others and managing the relationship. Knowing ourselves is a big aspect. Like I thought that yourself is huge. Is yourself your weakness or strength? But we are a mix of all of that, the strength and weakness. But our dominant self need not be the weakness or those things that we fail to be able to do. So we should know ourselves. Then we should know others, and be able to manage the relationship. I don't know how to summarize the whole big thing, the big topic on emotional intelligence. Maybe we have opportunity to talk about it in the future.
Thank you. We've got a few more questions in the chat. Doctor, if one grinds teeth, is it a stressful condition?
Yes, I think so. For some people, it will fall under the physical symptoms of stress, where the muscles are co-contracting. There is tightness in the muscles, and involuntarily, the muscles are causing the teeth to gnash or grind. Some people will sleep, and deep in their sleep, they are grinding their teeth. The muscles should be relaxed when you sleep, but they are not relaxed. They are contracting, and for that reason, the teeth is gnashing. So it can be a physical symptom of stress.
Can tiredness be grouped as stress? Telma is asking.
Oh, tiredness, fatigue, these are constructs that at times overlap in their usage. If we're using it technically or colloquially, if we're using it colloquially, it can just be somebody's use of that word to represent stress. But I would say it's a manifestation, or it can be a manifestation of stress. But permit me to say, if I overwork myself, I may not be in distress. I should be tired. And then when I'm tired, I will rest. But when tiredness becomes consistent, I'm always tired, I'm always fatigued, then it becomes a manifestation of stress.
I want to say, give thanks to Dr. Mbada. This is your second or third time on this platform, and I want to say,
Time? Yep.
do not be surprised. We will call you again and again. Thank you very
Thank you,
much
sir.
indeed. And
Thank you.
we have brought the program to an end tonight. Once again, I want to say thank you to everyone that has participated. God bless.